So I did that, and then started working on my bachelor's degree, and then I ended up retiring. So I ended up making it to retirement after all, even with the haters trying to hold me back and taking me to mass and trying and putting an obstacle in my way. Sure, they probably just didn't want me to advance anymore and pick up chief, and they achieved that because I never got an opportunity to take the chief's exam. But would I have liked to have achieved that particular level of success? Absolutely. Who doesn't? Nobody goes into this thinking, I just want to half-ass it. You want to see how far you could take it. Unfortunately, it just wasn't in the fates for me to achieve that at that point, and that's okay. You know, setbacks happen. But at the end of the day, it doesn't define me. It's not my identity. It's not who I am as a person. I don't allow it to define me. Because once you leave the military, they're not going to call you. The Navy hasn't called me once and said, hey, we miss you. Where you at? You know, what's going on? Nobody cares. At the end of the day, nobody really cares. I mean, you get bragging rights. I'm a veteran. I'm retired. And don't get me wrong. I love that moniker. I love that I earned that and that I get to, no matter what happens in my life, nobody could ever take that away from me. And that's how I feel about education. What that individual didn't understand is, to him, that associate's degree was, why waste your time? It's meaningless. But he didn't know how long I have waited to achieve that. And I needed that because, why? Because no one could ever take that away from me. The knowledge, the degree, no matter what happens in my life, nobody can take that away from me. And when I retired, I went on to continue in school. I achieved my bachelor's degree eventually. And I thought I was going to go into the nursing field, to be honest. I did pursue that. I thought I was a corpsman. I have all these credits. I have this experience. Let me go see what that's about. And once I started getting into the classes, it just wasn't for me. I realized for many reasons. One, I didn't want to start at the bottom again, and as a new nurse, I would have to start at the bottom like I did as a junior corpsman. And no, thank you. That wasn't for me. And I was getting older. I'm 40. At that point, I'm 40, and I just didn't see myself working like 12, 15 hours on my feet all the time. I just didn't see that for myself. So I chose a different path, and I got my bachelor's degree in healthcare administration with a minor in HR, and then went on to get work on my MBA. And I ended up completing my master's right before I graduated. I graduated with my MBA, and the lockdown happened a month later. So, let me back up a little bit. Prior to that, prior to working on my master's degree, when I retired, I had gotten another job as a contractor for Department of Labor. And I was helping out with the TAPS classes, which is a transition classes. So I would teach, 3 days workshops on transition, resume writing, and whatnot. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I was good at it, because I really don't think I was. I hate to shoot myself in the own foot. They'd be like, oh, you were amazing. I didn't crush it. I don't think. I think there are a lot more highly qualified individuals out there who would have done a better job personally. But I accept that. I'm glad that they gave me an opportunity, though, to learn, and I really appreciate that. But I ended up transitioning into working at Fleet and Family. So I worked at Fleet and Family as a spouse employment and an ombudsman coordinator. And those were interesting jobs, but they were not challenging. And I like to seek things that are challenging. And I have a real issue with the contractors, too, as well. The contractors that they hired severely underpay. For example, Mirror, as a they had some holdovers that were GS workers, government contractors, who were doing the same job that I was hired to do but were making significantly way more money than I was making. They had a degree requirement for this job, and they were paying us maybe $18, $19, $20 an hour. I can make that working as a manager at McDonald's. It's crazy to me. And so they had a degree requirement, right? They want military, they like the military experience. So I'm coming in with 20 years military experience, a degree at that point. I just had my associates at the time. I hadn't finished my bachelor's, but still that was the minimum requirement that they required. And $19 an hour, that's insane to me. And while the counterparts that were government workers who didn't have degrees at all, not even an associate's, just a high school diploma, no 10-point preference for conflict association for being in the military, and we're making like $80,000 a year, and I'm making 32. Make it make sense. I'm sorry, that just doesn't make. So it's funny because when I quit, the commanding officer on the base asked me, she's like, why do we have a hard time keeping a steady person in this job, like the ombudsman job? I said, ma'am, it's because of the pay. These contractors are not paying us what we're worth. I'm worth more. I mean, the experience we have is worth more than what I can make at Panera. I think everybody can agree that. But we also know that not all some people work for contractors and make hand over fist. And my experience was I was severely undervalued, and they lose a lot of people. I know friends who worked there who quit because just the pay was not enough, and the job was not challenging enough to want to stay, even for the pay. So there was that, and then, like I said, and then the lockdown happened. I had one interview, didn't go well. I wasn't feeling well. I didn't understand why. I was gaining a lot of weight. I had one point, I think at that point, by the time COVID happened, I was 230 pounds. I was drinking a lot. I think I was borderline alcoholic at that point, because I knew it, because I would look at the clock and wait for my kids to get home from school so I could start drinking again. Like, I was drinking a bottle of wine a day. I can't even sugarcoat that. I wish I could say that, no, it was just a drink every now and then. No, I was drinking a whole bottle of wine per day. That's a lot. I see now, though, I was just masking a lot that was going on internally. I was just masking a lot that was happening internally, meaning that things were not going well for me in my life, my personal life, in many different arenas, that it was just easier to pretend that everything was okay. And it really wasn't. Things were not okay with me. But the crazier part is, nobody checked on me. Not even my spouse was concerned, as far as he fed my addiction. He enabled me, rather than have concern that I went from basically the size that I am now to 230 pounds in like 5 years. Nobody, or that I was drinking a bottle of wine a day, or all the reckless behavior. Like, nobody, that's the crazy part about it. Nobody pulled me inside and said, we're concerned for you. We're concerned about you. This is like what's happening with you. And fast forward to a year and COVID happened. We had lockdown in 2020, so probably about 2021. I was taking a bath one day and found a lump, and it turned out that I had early stage 2 breast cancer. So that was a shock for many reasons. Like I said, I hadn't been feeling well, and I just chalked it up to poor health, meaning that I had gained a lot of weight, which I didn't understand why I was getting like weight. I was trying to work out and just wasn't working out. I didn't feel well. I was losing my hair. I just did not feel like myself, and I didn't understand what was happening. So I went, and I knew, and I didn't want to know, and it was the scariest thing I've ever gone through in my life. And like a butterfly, this was another metamorphosis of how I changed as a person. As we said in the beginning, boot camp was a touch point where I changed. Bethesda was another touch point where I changed, where I started to grow again. I started to get friends. I never really had friends before. Like, it was crazy. That's where I started having my own circle. These are people I still talk to this day.